Hi everyone, it's Laura from Migraine Australia. I have Suzanne on the line, who is one of our 151 faces of migraine. She's here to tell you all about her story. She's a little bit nervous, so let's give her a big welcome. Suzanne, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, well, I'm 52 years old now and I'm a mother of two children living in Perth, Western Australia, married to Graham. And I've had migraines for 25 years now and chronic migraine for 15, 16 years. So a headache every day and migraines at the moment every second day. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
And so, do you remember when you first started getting migraines? Was it a specific moment in your life, or was it something that sort of started quite slowly and progressively you noticed it more and more?
Well, look, I used to always get horrendous hangovers when I was about 20.
Yeah.
Worse than anybody else. And I thought, this isn't good. So, but, you know, being young and irresponsible, I just kept partying with my friends and expected to spend 1 or 2 days in bed. That was fine. And then one weekend we went away and I hadn't been drinking at all. I'd been really behaving myself. And we were at a concert in a place called York, just out of town.
Yeah.
And I just came down with this thunderclap headache. And by that stage, we were at the Oval listening to all the music. And I just had to drag myself back to the campsite. And some friends finally came back to check on me and found me pretty much unconscious in 40 degrees of heat in the back of a car and put me under the tree. And I stayed under that gum tree probably the next 15 hours until it passed. And I just remember thinking I was really confused because I'd only ever had hangovers before. I'd never had a migraine out of the blue like that. And when I say I had hangovers, I wasn't always having a hangover. Like I
No,
wasn't
of
a
course.
bad party girl.
No, I know, of course.
But I did party occasionally, but I didn't, this was like a completely new thing for me. I was just completely shocked. And but then it only happened that year, that once. And so I put it beside and I just kept going basically.
Now, is heat something that triggers you now? When you talk about your first experience sort of 20 years ago, when you talk about that thunderclap, do you still get that type of migraine now?
Well, do you know, I don't actually think it was from the heat now because what's transpired is I had an accident when I was an 8-month-old baby, and we've subsequently found out that it pretty much ruined my neck. So I did all the driving that weekend down to York and back again actually in the end. But and this happened to me quite a lot over the years. When I was travelling and driving and sort of holding my neck in the same position for hours on end, that seemed to trigger migraine. So I think that's how they first started. I can remember being in all sorts of places and being on a train and just sitting and looking out of the windows. We did train journeys and, oh no, I'm getting a migraine, or sitting on a bus in some crazy place and, thinking, oh no, I'm getting a migraine, So that's when I started to put 2 and 2 together. But then as I got older, they became more frequent and I started just to get them for random other reasons. And then I started getting them when I was about 30. I started getting monthly migraines that are, menstrual migraines that a lot of women get. But my boss was very supportive. I was back in Australia by then and my boss was very supportive because she had migraines as well. So it did interfere with my work, but only because I couldn't be there, but they were like, no, go home, that's fine. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. As the older I got, the worse it got. So I was always told that, once you get to a certain age, your migraines will disappear. And I just lived for that certain age. Well, I've sort of been past that certain age now, and I'm still going. So yeah, it's very complicated.
And are you on any treatment at the moment for your migraines?
Yes, I've just started Emgality. I think that's how you say it. It's Emgality, isn't it?
I think that's how you pronounce it, yeah.
So I've been on that for 2 weeks. Unfortunately, I've had the side effects that people have talked about. So I've had just the flu-like syndrome, and I seem to have developed a frozen shoulder and bad neck pain, which I usually have anyway, but it's worse. And the last week I've had a migraine pretty much every day. So I'm not sure what's going on, because this was my, my big hope. So I just have to stay positive and hope that, eventually it will work, because a lot of people say it doesn't work straight off the bat. It can take a couple of months. So I'm just hanging in there.
Crossing my fingers for you as well.
Yeah, thanks. But I do take Maxilon to stop the vomiting, and then I take Zomig and naproxen to treat the acute pain. But I'm just a bit worried that I'm taking too much of that at the moment. But, I've got a family to run, and, I don't have a choice.
So tell me more about your beautiful family, your kids and your husband. Do any of them suffer with migraine? Have they been supportive? Do they understand?
Yeah, they do. I have a husband who has never had really a lot of pain in his whole life. He's never had a headache. I don't even think he's ever had a hangover or anything like that. He's stupidly healthy. He actually does have he has a condition called psoriatic arthritis, but he got on top of that really quickly with the right medication. So, and this was years ago, and he has monthly injections, and he cycles 10 kilometres every weekend, and
wow,
it hasn't really held him back. So he's like, why can't you just get the right medication? I'm like, well, I'm trying. So I think my family my daughter's never known me without a headache. And because my daily headache came on when she was 3. And my son, he had the first 5 years where I just had intermittent migraines, which were still monthly and not pleasant, but he got probably the best of me. But I wouldn't say, look, I think people just get used to it. They're like, oh, whatever, I just go off and disappear into the bedroom, and they just all get on with it. And there's no big dramatics around it anymore. I mean, there's dramatics for me because I'm in the bedroom with the bucket and the flannel and God knows what else. But I think the family now just get on with it. So the only thing that worries me is my daughter, and I can hardly bear to say this because it's not something that I even really feel ready to talk about, and I don't want to jinx her or anything like that, but she does get headaches, and she gets regular headaches, and she has had migraines. So I didn't get them at her age. I didn't get my first one till I was about 23, 20, probably 20, and then, crazy out of the blue migraines, 23. So I'm a bit nervous, but then I have to realise that not everybody goes on to develop chronic migraine. People can just have a few migraines a year and still live their lives. So I have to not catastrophise that and just treat it as it is, give her Panadol because that works for her, and just pick ourselves up and keep going.
Well, you've got such a great attitude around everything. What would be your tips and tricks to other mothers that are going through, they're at the beginning of their journey, going through the same thing? What would you say to them?
Oh gosh, it's so hard. It's really hard, especially when you don't have family support. And I know a lot of mums, they don't have the support. They don't have family living in their hometowns. They could be single mothers, and really it's just hard yakka, and you just have to keep going somehow. Do whatever it takes. Don't feel guilty about asking for help, taking your medication. If it all falls in a heap, then we have to move to plan B, whatever that is. But I found when my kids were small and I didn't have any help at all, I would ask a couple of mums at the school if they would take the kids, because I physically was unable to look after them. I couldn't even talk, let alone look after 2 small children, and they stepped up. And I think look, at the end of the day, I don't think people were rushing in to look after somebody else's kids, but all I had to do was ask, and a couple of the mums were like, of course, we will help out. And then, I had some family support eventually down the track a little bit, but just keep going. Don't feel guilty, and your kids will be okay in the end. The kids will grow up. they won't carry this baggage with them, and they'll be okay. My kids are 17 and 20 now, and they're rat bags, but they're they're started because their mum gets migraines. It hasn't given them depression or anything like that, and we're still a good family, good close-knit family. Still struggling, but it'll all be okay. Don't catastrophize it.
Oh, that's such a lovely message. Now, Suzanne's actually one of our moderators in our Migraine Australia chat group. So, Suzanne, can you tell us a little bit about sort of your interaction and what value that chat group has added for you in joining that community? I know for me, when I was first diagnosed and I had started reaching out and looking for different channels, support groups like the Migraine Australia chat group were just huge for me, because I think I got to this point like you did where I stopped apologizing for things that I couldn't control. Yeah. And then I think when I found a whole group of people that were talking about everything that was going on in my head, it was just like, I remember crying the first night I found a group like that, because I was just like, I'm not a crazy person. Like, there's all these people that are just like me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I feel totally indebted to you guys who have started this group up, because it's an invaluable tool, because you do realise that there are other people in Australia, in your home city, your hometowns, who are suffering, and there are so many of us. I mean, we only have to look at the petition that has been, the 151 Faces of Migraine petition that's been started online, and there's over 3,000 signatures now. So that's a lot of people crying out to be heard, and crying out for more funding and recognition that we carry significant disabilities with us, and we need assistance basically. And a lot of people have the same stories, a lot of people have different stories, and it's just great that I feel like I can support people, I feel like people can support me. It's a give and take situation. It's just been absolutely wonderful. It's very dynamic as well for people who are all struggling, and everybody there is struggling. But for people who are struggling, I think everybody's doing like a brilliant job. Yeah, stepping up to the plate.
I think it's a real empowering thing. I think when you get to a point where you're okay to talk about it, it almost sort of gives you, for me, I almost felt empowered. Like, I think it was, you don't mean to feel guilty and you don't mean to feel shame, but I think it's we spoke about this in our panel, where it becomes the roller coaster of emotion that goes with migraine disorders. Yes. And I think when you can talk to other people and you can share your message, and it's not even searching for medical answers. It's just searching for the understanding. And that's what I think I absolutely love from it. And it's actually interesting because you were talking about your neck, and that's actually one of my triggers. So when my migraines went from chronic migraine to vestibular, I moved my head around a lot, and my physio was just like, you have got to watch how much you shake your head.
And stretching only.
And I never actually realized that, but he said, you quite naturally carry tension there when you're moving it around. So I'm actually the same as you. I mean, I think I sort of look at my diagnosis more in my 20s, and now that in my 30s, I feel that I go through something similar with menstrual migraines as well, and that light side of it gets worse. But I think it's like that notion that migraines do suck, but we find a way to work with them, to understand them, and to get that information out there to others, that you don't have to do it all by yourself, and there are things that you can do to make it better. But no, it's been so lovely talking to you. To finish on a excited note, do you have words of wisdom that you wanted to sort of share with everyone?
Oh gosh, words of wisdom. I just think, at the end of the day, look, it's not really words of wisdom, but just try and be kind to yourself, and offload the guilt. Don't worry about what other people think of you. If you can't turn up to something, you can't turn up to something. If you're in bed for 5 days a week and your kids have to eat baked beans, who cares? They've got something in their stomach. Just keep moving forward and drop the guilt. That's all I'd say.
And for someone so nervous, she has done absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for sharing. We've absolutely loved, like, I absolutely love talking to you. And I can't wait to see you get more involved with Migraine Australia, because you just have so much to offer.
Thank you. Fingers crossed. Okay. I'll
Thanks.
see you soon.